chance to go anywhere together.
Oh, let me give you a hug.
But we didn't get any time off up there. We worked 7 days a week for 8 weeks straight. 73 and a half hours 1 week, and 90 miles a day to get there and back.
So, Everett, when you were born?
October 8th, 1936, they tell me.
Were you born here on the farm?
No, I'm a foreigner.
You're
We're across the valley over the part on the other hill where Dave Holton lives.
Oh, yeah, that's quite foreign.
My uncle and aunt lived there, and had 2 Craftsbury doctors. Dr. Easton and Dr. Bibby were both there, and I guess I was kind of stubborn about being expelled. And it was colder than hell that night. They had the potatoes dug in bags on the barn floor, and they froze. Dad said he guessed it might have been the coldest 8th of October he had ever seen, because potatoes freeze in a bag on the barn floor. It was quite chilly.
Now, it was in 39.
36.
36. Now, did you go to school here in
Yeah, North Wolcott.
in North Wolcott?
We were the last Craftsbury kids that went to North Wolcott all through the 20s. After they closed the hatch school up here in 36, the Craftsbury kids in this corner of town all went to North Wolcott. Well, I started the 7th of September in 1943 in the 1st grade. And when we got down to the spring of 1950, we was the last Craftsbury kids that ever went to North Wolcott.
So you pretty much went right through the whole schooling, right?
Well, I went 6 years down there.
Yeah.
Then in the fall of 1950, we went to Common, because that's when the Craftsbury put the kids all together. We went to Common for the 7th and 8th grade in high school, so. All in 1950. We were the last Craftsbury kids that ever went to North Wolcott.
So when did you end up here on the Demeritt farm?
Dad was 4.5 years old in 1909 when they came here.
So that he had this farm even far back as that.
And Grammy bought it of old Dan Sargent. Old Dan Sargent lived down here in North Wolcott. He died in February of '56. A good old man, crippled, kind of disabled. He had a terrible rupture. But when he was a younger man, I guess he bought and dickered in farms. And old Howard Stevens did too. But they bought this farm in 1909, December 1909, of Dan Sargent for $1,000.
Wow.
And they wrote 20 predated payment receipts of $50 a year. And I've got them all somewhere. Beautiful, most gorgeous writing you've ever seen.
Probably cursive.
Yes, but beautiful, beautiful writing. Well, they made the $50 a year payments for...
They did a lot in calligraphy back in those days.
Well, it was, and beautiful job. I ain't sure where they are now. I've moved them somewhere, and I ain't sure where they are. But it was 20 predated payment receipts. And they made 2 or 3 at $50 a year, and then they sold the timber to Link Miller. Link was Homer Miller's father for $300. Well, that all went on the farm, so that had cut it down to probably about $450. Had cut it down $450. So that would have left $550 on it. And then Dad's brother, Leon Button, died of the flu in Camp Devens, Massachusetts in 1918. And his death payments finished paying for the farm.
What was the name of your grandparents?
Well, Cora Wheeler Button Demeritt was Dad's mother, and William Henry Harrison Demeritt was his father.
When did they come over to the States?
Well, it would be their grandfather that was an English Revolutionary War soldier in the English Army.
Yeah.
For a little while. Well, he was taken prisoner soon after that, and he was released and settled in Stratford County, New Hampshire. And he had 3 boys there, and then he came to Williston, Vermont, and had 2 more. And we come from my youngest boy in Williston, Vermont. Let me show you the Civil War roster with my great-grandfather's name. Come on in here. That's the roster of Company D of the 5th Vermont Volunteers. Dad's grandfather is on that, William Demeritt. Take it down if you want, or you can really look at it. That artwork on that is just a beautiful piece of work.
I think I can get a close-up right from here.
So Everett, he must have been in the Civil War with my mother's grandfather, Robert Boyce, who was from North Wolcott.
Was he in Company D of the 5th Vermont?
What was he in, Keith?
He was in Company D.
He guarded.
Of the 5th Vermont.
He guarded the White House. I know that. We have his muster out paper.
Well,
Yeah.
that's Company D of the 5th Vermont. There were 13 regiments. William Letts, Demeritt's brother, Marcus, was in one of the 9-month regiments. And I've got a fife here, and new history on that. Mike Wheeler was Dad's uncle, lived
In Woodbury?
beside the police station in Marshville. He gave Dad this fife in 1951. Well, Dad gave it to Tony Washburn 40 years ago, and Tony gave it back to me 6 months ago. And he told me something I had never heard. He said, your father told me that Marcus Demeritt brought that home from the Civil War. Now, he was in one of the 9-month regiments, and the fifer was a Woodbury, name of Woodbury, from Woodbury. And I've got all the Civil War rosters. I've got all this information.
Yeah, he's buried right down here in Woka. Fred Boyce, my grandfather, the one that served.
No, it's Robert.
Robert, yeah, he served in the Civil War.
Robert was our grandfather.
Yeah, and yeah, he's buried just down the hill here a little ways. So he probably was in about the same time.
Well, they might have been, if it was Company D of the 5th Vermont, it was the same outfit.
He might be on
Take that down where you can read it.
Do you want me to hold the camera?
Maybe his name, if he's in that outfit, his name's on that roster.
That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? I don't know, can I get to it?
Well, move this goddamn stuff if you have to.
You might be able to get to it from the front easier.
Yeah, those chairs ain't secured to the floor.
Okay.
I want to show you that place.
Is this running still?
That was information that I had never heard. Mike Wheeler didn't tell us a thing about it when he gave it to us. And I don't know how in the hell Mike Wheeler had it anyway, because he was my grandmother's brother. But Marcus Demeritt was my grandfather's brother. My great-grandfather's brother.
Here, you hold this, and maybe I can do it.
Well, this don't come out, so I don't think you can get it off.
It's probably in alphabetical order. I hate to take it down, really, to be honest with you. If I could get it there to stand in, I could probably lean over and grab it.
What you got?
That fife. The fifer.
Oh yeah.
The fifer was from Woodbury, and he was with the Marcus Demeritt and got killed. And he brought. Now I never had heard this till Tony told me. If Dad had never said anything to me about this, and when Mike Wheeler gave it to us in '51, he didn't give any history. He probably didn't know any history.
Yeah, it's a cant from for bagpipe.
You know, it's Tony's had a few people play it, and they said it's a damn good one.
Yeah, there's a place where you can screw this right onto your pipes, and
Well, maybe I don't know that.
yeah, it's called a canter. Right here. They're wooden, and it pushes down onto the pipe bag. And you
So this is part of a bagpipe.
It is. So I had one, a new version. But
Did you learn to play it?
I spent 8 months to learn how to play about 3 tunes, so I gave up. It takes a lot of wind. Hang out all the time, go out, like talking to older folks and find out about their lives and stuff.
No. You give up the store business because they're stealing your blind.
Yeah, and then law enforcement. Of course, I went back there to work for, I don't know, it was like 10, 15 years, more of it. And then I retired from there, I think it was 7 years ago.
You work for the sheriff's department?
I worked for Gardner Minosh the first time around, then I ended up working for Roger Marcoux the second time.
Here, let me go get on this side so I'm not, you don't have to look back.
I know it all right. I know it.
So, back to the farm here. When did you actually move on to the farm? Is it after your grandparents passed away? Or?
I presume that Dad and Mom made me right in what is the bathroom now in February of 1936.
So you pretty much.
So we was here, and went over to Uncle Mo's to be born, and come back here a little while, and then the spring of '38 we went up to that place, a mile up the road across the Hyde Park line, and we was there until the 20-something of April in 43.
Yeah.
We came back down here with horses and sleds. Maybe it was the 19th of April. Dad told me what day it was, but it was decent sledding. in April when we moved back down here in 43.
So what kind of farm was it back in then? The same thing, just a few milking cows?
Well, yeah, but when they first come here, they were so goddamn poor they weren't even the animals.
Yeah.
Grammy wanted to raise a calf or something. She had to boil hay to get a tea because they want no milk and they want no money. And if she wanted to mail a letter, she had to sell some eggs to buy a stamp. And that's how goddamn poor they were, I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's beautiful land up here, though. I mean, I know it took quite a while to get it the way it is
Well,
today.
I bulldozed it all and harrowed it, and picked the stones, the whole goddamn thing. There was 3 acres of rocks right out in the middle of that field out here. And the last time Dad mowed it was in 43. He said, I can't mow it anymore because I can't stay on the machine. Well, that all growed up to brush. There was popple trees and a couple of pine trees almost 2 foot through up there. So in 82, I started cleaning that up. And I got the brush all cut off and did what I could with my little 420 John Deere putt-putt. And then I had Balone Cody's TD20 here for 6 days pushing off stones out of that field. And we got that all done. Then I hired Marvin Rowe, the GW20 Ford tractor, a 16-foot hydraulic stone picker, to pick stones on that 3 acres again. And then we got it done, and we still weren't satisfied. Then we used a subsoiler and tore it all up and did it again. Well, I had stones enough to build a road across the swamp up there.
Well, I believe
but by God, I can mow this land now.
Yeah. When did you build your sawmill?
Started it 46 years ago. This one, we had one anyway.
Did you build this one, or did you?
No, yeah, I built it. Yes, I built the carriage and built it all. I traded the tractor mill that we had with a fellow over in Milton in April of 73 for this lane number 1. But it wasn't completely lean. Some fucking idiot down the UVM helped this fella build it with oak carriage, and the carriage is all right, but they didn't have enough to make the wheels for it. They made special wheels. They had car wheel bearings, rear wheel bearings for the bearings in the axles. Well, they was all right if you were going to saw cedar. But I was sawing hardwood and roll them goddamn logs down and smash them bearings all to hell.
I remember I bought a bunch of cedar from you about 40 years ago.
You did?
Yeah, I did a bedroom all in cedar, and I come up here and you sawed out a bunch of cedar, but it was a long time ago.
Well,
yeah,
it was a hell of a job getting a cedar any good.
Yeah, that stuff that you sold me turned out pretty good.
Well, some of it did, but the cedar that grew on the Black River Valley here is the poorest cedar probably ever grew. There can be good cedar, but it don't grow in Orleans County.
Do you have to forge a lot of your stuff yourself up here for your mill to get it going? Or?
No, I had all the parts.
You had the parts to it, yeah.
Well, yeah, they was complete when I traded the tractor mill for this one. It was complete anyway.
Did you run it off the tractor?
No, hell no. We had a U-21 International Power Unit on the tractor mill, 65 horse, FBB 298 engine designed in 1932. That was 65 horse. That's fair enough for that. And then when I built this mill, I bought an 18A International, UD 18A.
Yeah.
And that was 125 horse.
That's diesel?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I sold $5 million with that. Then bought a 13,000 cat. And probably sold another $5 or $6 million with that. Now I got a $16,000 Chalmers that come from Milton Mansfield Company. This Ellis Chalmers is 160 horse. I've always had power enough to turn my saws.
I guess so, with that size. When did you first run into the Bradley bunch?
Up to J Peak.
Oh,
I knew about them. But then in '68, you see, we all worked together down on the dormitories. Jimmy was there too.
Yeah.
Your father and I worked together quite a lot time 68 and 69.
But J Peak was before that, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
J Peak was
Because
68.
weren't you putting up the cable lines and
Yes,
stuff for the
yeah.
ski area? I remember that now. That was I remember Dad being up there.
The first of your father and I ever working together was putting window jamb extensions in the big main lobby where there's a big fireplace now. The fireplace was built in '67. But he and I worked together. There was inch and a quarter boards, and there was 6-inch boards. I just bought a brand new Miller's Falls miter box with a 5-inch deep saw. Well, the boards are.
She ended up putting her in a
all learned
nursing
to work,
home.
by God, and you've all worked, and ain't no harm in teaching kids to work.
Yep.
Now, nobody ever pushed their boys harder than I did. probably harder than anybody ever pushed our boys. But we was doing everything. We raised 300 replacement heifers here. We was sugaring, we was farming, we was haying 6,000 bales of hay a year. The mill was running all the time, the planer running most of the time, the skidder running all the time, and the log truck running most of the time. And a shop full of tools. Well, my boys was playing with a welder when they were 8 or 10 years old. Doc is certified in 5 techniques, and Charles could be too if he wanted to be.
Yeah, we were always taught to work. You know, I went to work at 14 and never stopped. And
That's right.
Me too. I had a full-time job at the college when I was a senior in high school, working nights cleaning. We were just talking about that we had a lot of responsibility at a young age, but we were just saying, man, we use those skills today.
Absolutely.
Like, we probably wouldn't even be able to make it if we didn't know how to can and do the garden, and we actually both do all that stuff now. We've kind of gone a full circle, and we're back into that.
The young people today don't want to learn anything. They don't know anything except playing with these goddamn texting devices.
They want money. They want money, but they don't want to work for it.
Don't want to work it right.
quick and easy. How can I get it?
That's right.
Well, you got to start somewhere. Yeah.
We have no regrets on the way we were raised and any of it. It's like when times were hard, they were hard for everybody. It felt like everybody that we knew was in the same economic boat.
They were, but everybody was working. They had to work.
Yep.
Did you go into service? You did, didn't you?
Yeah, we went, the 4th of May in 59.
59, yeah.
Took basic in Fort Benning, Georgia with the 2nd Division, and my platoon sergeant was a master sergeant. Now I'll tell you, it ain't very often a master sergeant has to train recruits, but I'm fortunate for it. He's one of the finest men I ever was with. He said, I hate this bullshit just as bad as you do, but we got to do it.
Yep.
Now I owe that man a gallon of syrup, and I never could find him. After I left basic, I never was able to find him. Well, we found his name on the Everett 2 or 3 years ago, and he just died.
Did you do some parachuting?
No, parachute, no, it was infantry training.
Infantry, yep.
Then I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for artillery training. Then to Fort Carson, Colorado for 6 months of the life of Riley. Then when I got to Korea, things had changed. When I got to Korea, Spec 4 was walking guard. But by the time I made Spec 4, we were so goddamn short of men that I was on guard every other night. I was over there for the last 6 weeks.
I spent a total of 6 years in the military. I did 4 years in the Navy and 2 years in the Army. So, but I think military is good for everybody.
You was in Vietnam with the Navy?
Navy, yeah. I was. That was. I think it was 1970, somewhere in there. We were bombing Hanoi at the time, whenever that time period
That
was.
Jane Fonda goddamn bitch.
Well, she was there when I was there.
Went there, the damn bitch. She shut on the anti-aircraft gun. They were shooting airplanes down. And then they let her come back in this country. That goddamn bitch should have been banned from ever coming back home.
There weren't a lot of too happy people about that. As a matter of fact, I can recall coming home. I wouldn't wear my uniform because I wouldn't be able to get a ride. And you'd go to an airport and you'd get yelled at and spit on and stuff thrown at you.
But no boys was ever treated as bad in history of this country as you boys were.
Yeah, it wasn't fun.
And that was the goddamn colleges that created all that turmoil.
Yeah.
Keith was just telling me that he's got Bessie Drennan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bessie.
Now I sent you, or we had some kind of a correspondence about that.
Yep, I sold my quilts at her exhibit, but I did a whole thing on her and interviewed people, which Keith has on his website, that knew her when she was young. But she was kind of an eccentric nut, really.
Yeah.
And her paintings, she would paint them and give them to people, but nobody really wanted them because she was kind of a pain. But it ended up that, that she actually, years ago, I'm kind of jumping around here, but she did a painting called The Easter Egg Hunt at the White House, and it was about, apparently they have an Easter egg hunt at the White House that they've had every year for millions of years or whatever. But she did a painting of that, and I think it was Eisenhower that she gave the painting to, and so somewhere there's, in D.C., there's a painting, one of Bessie
Well, she was sister to Blanche Utley.
Yes.
And Charles Utley owned the grain store where Pool and Lumber is in Hardwick. And Ma worked for them from 33 to 36.
Right.
$5 a week.
That weren't much, was
And they had the Drennan Hotel in Woodbury.
Yeah.
They tore it down a few years ago. Their house where they housed the workers up at the quarries, and they had this dance floor in that building. They called it a spring dance floor, but it just would give. It wasn't on springs, but the floor would move when people were dancing on it.
That's the way it was designed, though, wasn't it? So
yeah, so it would.
It was like
the
a
weight,
floating
I
floor.
think.
Well, you know that big stone wall right there where you head up the quarries?
Yes.
That big barn, Morris Nelson bought that barn in '46 and tore it down and put it up on the Nelson farm here in Albany where the wind towers are.
So that barn was moved?
Yes, he tore that barn down and moved it in '46. And because of Johnny Nelson's opposition to them goddamn wind towers, some son of a bitch burned that barn for him.
Nice big barn.
They burned that barn because he was so goddamn opposed to them wind towers. And they drove him and his wife crazy, and they finally ended up buying the whole farm. Now I logged on that land in '64, and the biggest maple that I ever cut in my life was 32 3 inches was on that land. And he said that's right where one of those towers are. He said that tower, that fill is 40 to 50 feet deep where you cut that tree. But they drove him crazy, and he ended up, they bought him out, and he's up Derby now.
You know, that barn is in some of her paintings.
It is?
In quite a few of her paintings, that barn is in there. I'm going to have to find a picture of that and send it to you, of her painting with the barn in it.
That was a nice big one.
Oh, it was a big barn, and a well-built barn. A well-built barn. Morris Nelson did damn well up there. He was there in '42, so I don't know when he did go there.
There's a Vermont Life magazine article about Bessie Drennan and some correspondence that she had with Alfred Hitchcock when he was here filming a movie, I think up in Craftsbury Common.
That was in September of '54.
Yes.
The Trouble with Harry, and I've got the movie.
Yes, and
Trouble
she
with Harry.
somehow she connected with Alfred Hitchcock, and it's in that article, and I think it might be the 1955 edition of Vermont Life magazine. But I have it, and I'll find it.
And I even bought
I collect them too. I love those magazines.
When we was in the 7th grade, we was cutting the first issue out in the state of Vermont. They printed 25,000 the first ones. Well, I bought one 15 years ago. It cost me $50. And I lent it to somebody, and I ain't got it now.
Is it the first edition?
The first one.
I have quite a
They
bit.
want it for
Mind
themselves.
your way, hon.
Huh?
See my kitty on the door.
Oh yeah, let me in, let me in.
It's so cute.
What a pretty cat.
My cat looked just like that. Same
Same color?
color.
The gray and the
Had a bushy tail.
So I don't know who in hell I lent it to, but I ain't got it now anyway.
He's out there picking on my birds.
I every time I see a box of those beside the road for free, I would grab them.
That's right.
Some of them were in folder, these hard-covered cases in order.
Have you got
and
them all?
I've got a lot, and my son Mike, I think you've met him, Mike King.
No, I don't know.
He was politician
But I've
here
got
last
a lot
fall.
of extra ones too, so if you know what you need, I might have enough to fill your set.
See, you could get them for nothing, but now they're closed. So, like, I think they're going to be collectible now because they're not that easy to come by anymore.
Yeah, people didn't think to save stuff like that, you know. They just,
You know what? I go in there and I find an article and I can connect with just about everything in that. At least one article in that magazine. I either know somebody that knew the person, or there's some connection with my life, I feel, in there.
The spring of '81, there's a piece about us, about the mill. It should have been the pictures were taken in '79, and they should have been in the spring of '80. But he never got it in, so it's spring of '81 when they got it in.
about this mill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet I have it.
Can I take some pictures of that before I leave? Can I take some pictures of your mill before I leave?
Sure.
I guess so. I never heard anything to have a picture taken.
I saw you on the news
Our kids took it. Oh, when that ground was
when they
up.
tore up your driveway or
Yeah.
field there. You were on the news there.
Took 2 years in a row, you know.
I
Oh,
was
they
in the
did it?
picture too, because I went down to mill with him.
Did they catch who it was?
That's what I was wondering because nobody caught anybody by
Nobody
then.
ever knew.
But boy, they did a hell of a job on it, though, didn't they?
Well,
They tore it up.
it was more making me mad from no respect than it was financial damage. It wasn't any real any real financial damage.
Oh, it's just the idea, you know, like
Just
you
the
were
idea.
saying.
That's
They
what
went out
made
and
me so
let
goddamn
people
mad.
in.
You put so much work into trying to smooth things out so you can use it, then
My
somebody tears it up.
daughter-in-law raked it the last time with a York rake on the tractor, and there was no permanent damage and no real financial damage.
She's a little farm girl. I youngest
Yeah.
boy.
But no respect for people's property is what made me the maddest of all.
I don't blame you. I don't have a lot of land. I've got 15 acres, but I had some guy come down out of the woods last summer, walk through my yard, and I'm out in the middle of nowhere, and my dog barked, so I went out and I asked him who he was, and he didn't want to tell me. And finally, I kind of followed him right down there. I said, I want to know who you are. And he told me that he just moved in up back, well, up in a house on another road. And he saw this trail, so he decided to take it. And, of course, there's no trail. And I said, well, let me just tell you something. I said, people will shoot you around here for doing this. I said, you really need to ask people, or at least acknowledge who you are when they ask you. You don't just
Yeah, if they don't even
ignore
want to take
somebody
their land,
when you're on their land.
Right.
But
They don't think about any
Didn't care.
respect it
right. I'm from
whatsoever.
the city.
he didn't care.
You
He
ever
didn't
see
even.
him again?
Oh, in town, around town. But I've told people. I said, you be careful
Yeah,
because
that's right.
he just walks across your land. And they said, he better not walk across mine. I said, well, I don't care. I've never posted my land. I don't care if people hunt on it or anything. But you know what? If I want to know who you are. I pay the taxes there, not you, and I want to know who's there. But
When you
No.
were working up to J Peak, I think I was living over Maxim's farm then. You know where Maxim's farm was? Yeah. Yeah, I lived there. I got room and
You
board.
did?
They paid me,
Did you ever know Patch, Preston's father?
yeah,
was it Mark?
Mark, yes.
Mark, yeah.
You see,
He
was,
bought the
Elijah
farm from
Stevens
Mark.
down here, Howard Stevens' wife, that lived right in front of the church here in Norfolk, was Mark Patch's sister.
Mark died fishing in Alaska, didn't
Yes,
he?
in
Yeah.
66.
How'd he get his body home?
I don't know. Preston went out and got the truck. So I don't know how they got it home. Preston didn't bring the body home.
See,
very
Preston lived up here in Elmore.
Yeah.
I would press too bad on back that chair.
It ain't any different. It ain't any different. It's been for a month.
Look, it's falling off it. Everything.
Yeah, well,
They've got
the
just
Legion
the
has
top-
got some chairs up there, and I'm supposed to have some of them.
You've got just the one that's tearing out.
All right.
So, I think it was like 65, I think, when Mark sold the farm to the Maxims.
That could be. That could be.
Yeah, because I was over there in 66, I think I moved in. Actually, I slept in the barn. It was cleaner
So
down
you
the
were
barn.
on the
wasn't it?
farm when Mark died in Alaska?
No, just after, because Mark had already sold the farm then.
Yeah.
Mark and his wife, what was his wife's name?
Huh?
Katie, was his wife's name Katie,
Katie,
or
I
something
think.
like that?
Yeah, I think it was Katie. Yeah, because she had a hard time getting him back. Of course, she had to come through Canada, but I wasn't sure how she did get him back, whether they flew him back or what.
Well, I expect they did. But Preston went out and got the truck. But he certainly didn't bring his body back.
You were 14 when you moved over there.
Yeah, I was just a young fella back then.
We just went and saw Nancy Maxim. They're the people that bought that farm.
Yeah, we were up there for quite a time, and
She's in a nursing home, but we went and visited her.
yeah, she's not too far from
Who
here.
owns the land now?
McClure?
McClure's, yeah, they've been there since they bought it from Maxim's, and that's nice farmland there. We used to farm both places, up in the end, and what was the name of that road up above them? If you went straight, the road used to run straight through there years ago.
I know I did. But Mark Patch was a progressive farmer back in the 50s, 40s and 50s. He was one of the biggest farms around.
Yeah, and some of the nicest farmland that you could ask for. That rich river bottom land.
How long was he there? Do you have any idea? Was it a family farm and he grew up on? Do you know?
Well, all the Patches were farming, so I'm sure that because Ted had a farm. You remember Ted Patch?
No.
He was Mark's brother. Then there was Win Patch, and he was kind of a guy that just liked to live near brooks and tents and stuff. And then there was Charlie, was the son.
I know Charlie.
He had a
He was up on the Mines
I
Road.
know I
mines
did.
road, and he had a meat cutting business too. He used to cut
Yeah, and a good meat cutter.
meat in the
Well,
store.
was Bill Patch some of that family, cousin or something?
Cousins, yeah. Yeah, all those patches are interrelated. I think they're all, most of them are out of Canada originally.
And Mark was a good friend of Uncle Harvey's.
Yeah.
They were good pals.
Yeah, Mark was, he seemed to be more of the quiet one, you know. Compared to Charlie, of course. Charlie would scream at you the minute
Well,
you
that's
see
all
him.
right. We understood. You understood it when you understood his message.
Oh, yeah, you got it loud.
As
Oh,
a kid, I was always afraid of him.
How old do you say Harvey is?
98.
And
Yeah.
still getting around pretty good. Huh?
Oh,
Still
yeah.
goes elk hunting.
He goes hunting
Oh, my
and fishing,
gosh.
and you know, of course, he's slowing down. He uses a 4-wheeler some instead of
He
walking.
might be.
And his memory, I think, is a little fading, but
We're going to go out and see him this summer.
he
He's,
lives with his son.
He's in Colorado, and
Oh, that's good. He can do that.
Near Vale, isn't he?
He's near Grand Junction.
Okay.
He's actually almost on the Utah border. They live in a little town called Fruita.
Called
But
what?
Fruita.
FRU.
Fruita.
Well, he went in '67. Just right soon after he and I stopped working together, he left here. Right.
Yep.
Right soon.
Him and Isabel divorced, and he went out there to live with his son John and his wife Vicky, Vicky was a Lamphere from Waterville and was Albert Patty's husband's sister.
Okay.
So cousins married brother and sister.
Yeah, there was Johnny. He went out. That whole family settled in that area, and Harvey, for the most of his life, after he left here, was just doing guide work. He'd take people in up into hunt elk and moose and
And
whatever they had.
construction. He built a lot of houses
Yeah, he did.
and
He
stuff
worked
out
on
there
some
too.
banks.
Well, he was
out
a
there.
goddamn good carpenter.
Yeah.
You could get along with him. He wants a fucking arrogance. You couldn't get along with him.
Well,
No.
he was the foreman, I think, when we were at the college.
Uh,
The labor foreman.
I don't
When we
remember-
were doing the stairs.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Roger-
No, he wasn't here then. He left in '67.
Because Roger was working up there, too.
Who's Roger?
His son.
Roger Bradley.
Yeah, this was in the 60s.
Well, the '68, your father and I, we built all them
Yeah.
cement walls. But Harvey had left the year before. He left in '67.
Well, Roger was still there because Wright and Morrissey was doing the job.
Yes, that's right. It was.
Yeah, and did Kurt Bradley work up there
Yes, he
too?
worked-
He
he
got
worked-
hurt up there,
He
didn't
worked for Seasand.
He broke his arms up there, I think.
Huh?
Didn't he break his arms
think
up
his-
there?
I don't know
I
what
think his
happened to him. I
ankles
never
and
knew him
arms.
very well.
Fell off staging or somewhere.
But he worked for Seasand. They built the auditorium.
Yeah.
We built the 2 dormitories and the mess hall.
So Sterling and governors and senators are probably what you built.
Well, I don't know what they call them now, but
Yeah.
the 2 dormitories.
Yeah, was it like the dining hall and then 2 dorms
Yes,
after
well,
that?
that's what we worked on.
Yep, so it was
and
Sterling.
they had those Quonset huts up there at the time. Those
Yeah, they were
dome-shaped
up towards the ball
buildings.
field.
But,
I worked up there for years with Mom.